and, getting people to really listen to you. It's not about shouting louder or trying to be the smartest person in the room. It's about being real. People can feel when you're being authentic, and they respond to that more than anything else. When you speak from a place of truth, even if your voice shakes or your hands tremble, people lean in. They notice your courage. They notice that you're not pretending. You have to care about what you're saying, and you have to care about who you're speaking to. Listening is contagious. If you show someone that you're truly present, that you're not just waiting for your turn to talk, they will mirror that energy back to you. Pause sometimes. Let silence breathe in the room. People listen when they sense that your words matter, when they feel your intention behind them. Confidence isn't about perfection. It's about showing up even when you feel messy, even when you feel fragile. Vulnerability draws attention, draws connection. If you can show that you're human, people stop tuning out and start leaning in. And once they're leaning in, your words carry weight. Your ideas matter. Your presence matters. You also have to be fearless in a quiet way. You don't need to force respect. You earn it by being consistent and by speaking your mind with clarity and conviction, by refusing to let doubt or fear make your voice small. When you speak from that place, people not only listen, they remember. They feel it in their bones. And that's how influence is born, quietly but powerfully, through truth, presence, and a little bit of courage that no one can take away. Authenticity is the cornerstone of being heard. When you speak, it's not about the words alone. It's about the energy behind them, the alignment of your heart, your mind, and your voice. People have an innate ability to sense when someone is being genuine and when someone is performing. They can feel it in subtle cues. The tone, the hesitation, the small nervous gestures, the confidence that radiates from being completely in your own skin. When your words come from a place of truth, when you are unafraid to show yourself exactly as you are. There is a magnetism that draws attention, that invites people to lean in and truly listen. Authenticity is not polished or rehearsed. It is raw and alive. It does not hide behind a mask of what you think others want to hear, because that only creates distance. Instead, authenticity invites connection. It builds trust, and trust is what opens ears, hearts, and minds. When you speak authentically, you are giving people permission to experience your message without barriers. You are not asking them to accept a facade, but rather to engage with the real, unfiltered version of you, and that in itself is powerful. Being authentic requires courage, but it requires the willingness to speak even when your voice trembles, even when you feel vulnerable or exposed. And it is the recognition that the value of your words is not diminished by fear or imperfection. In fact, imperfection often enhances authenticity because it signals humanity. People listen more closely when they see someone who is willing to risk being imperfect in order to communicate truth. It is this willingness to be human, to be visible in all your complexity, that commands attention. When you are authentic, you are not trying to manipulate or control how others perceive you. Instead, you are presenting yourself as you are, trusting that your message will resonate with the right people. This trust in your own voice and perspective is magnetic. It is a quiet authority that cannot be fabricated. The world is filled with noise, with people speaking just to be heard, to assert dominance or to impress. But authenticity cuts through that noise. It does not compete, it simply exists, and its presence is enough to draw people in. Authenticity also means speaking in alignment with your values. It is not enough to simply share thoughts or opinions. Those thoughts must reflect who you truly are, what you stand for, and what you believe in. When your words are congruent with your inner convictions, there is a resonance that cannot be faked. And people respond to alignment between words and character. They notice when someone speaks in a way that is consistent with their integrity, when actions and words reinforce each other, when what is said is backed by the lived reality of the speaker. This consistency is what builds credibility, and credibility is a magnet for listeners. Authenticity is not about being loud or persuasive in the conventional sense. It is about being undeniable in your presence, about allowing the truth within you to shape your expression. When you are authentic, and your voice carries weight, not because you demand it, but because it emanates naturally from the core of who you are. Authenticity also invites vulnerability, and vulnerability is deeply compelling. When you allow yourself to be seen without pretense, without carefully curated armor, people are drawn to that honesty. They listen because it signals trustworthiness. It signals courage. It signals that the speaker is real. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is strength displayed in its most human form. Sharing your genuine experiences, your doubts, your fears, and your triumphs allows others to connect with you on a fundamental level. This connection is what sustains attention, and what encourages engagement, what makes people not just hear your words, but feel them. Authenticity is a living practice. It requires ongoing self-awareness, reflection, and the courage to speak your truth even when it is uncomfortable. It asks you to show up fully without reservation and to trust that your voice matters simply because it is yours. When authenticity guides your speech, your message becomes more than information. It becomes an experience. Listeners are drawn not just to the content, but to the energy behind it, to the sense that the speaker is present, real, and unafraid. They sense the alignment between intention and expression, between inner truth and outward words. This alignment is magnetic. It cuts through distraction, through pretense, through the superficial layers of communication that often dull attention. People do not respond merely to eloquence. They respond to integrity. They respond to the courage to be oneself. Authenticity ensures that what you communicate resonates, lingers, and leaves an impression because it is a reflection of the genuine, unfiltered self. And that reflection is something people instinctively recognize, respect, and respond to. Being present is one of the most overlooked yet powerful ways to make people truly listen. Presence is more than just being physically in the room. It is about fully engaging with the moment, with the people around you, and with the energy you bring into the conversation. When you show up completely, without distraction, without preoccupation, people feel it and they respond. Presence is magnetic because it signals respect, focus, and genuine interest. People naturally mirror the energy they sense. So when you are attentive and fully present, they are more likely to open themselves up and pay attention to what you have to say. Presence is not something that can be faked. You can't half show up and expect full engagement. The body, the voice, the eyes, even the subtle micro-expressions communicate whether or not you are truly there. When your energy aligns with your words, when you are fully invested in the interaction, people notice. They lean in, they connect, and they listen in a way that goes beyond mere hearing. Listening is a crucial part of presence. It is impossible to be present without also being a listener. People are drawn to those who listen more than they talk, because listening signals that you value the other person's thoughts and feelings. It creates a space of safety where communication flows naturally. when you are genuinely interested in someone else's perspective. You don't just wait for your turn to speak, you engage actively, absorbing not just the content of their words, but the emotion behind them. This deep listening creates reciprocity. People respond by tuning in more closely, by giving their attention willingly, and by respecting the space you create through your presence. Presence and listening are intertwined. But one cannot exist fully without the other, and when both are practiced intentionally, the effect is transformative. Presence also requires clarity of mind. To be fully present, you must quiet internal distractions and release preoccupations with the past or the future. People can sense when your attention is divided, when your mind is elsewhere, when you are mentally preparing your next response instead of truly engaging with what is being shared. The clarity of presence is communicated through eye contact, posture, tone, and timing. Even the way you breathe, the rhythm of your speech, the pacing of your words all contribute to a sense of being fully in the moment. Presence carries authority because it signals mastery over yourself before seeking mastery over attention. It communicates calm confidence, a groundedness that naturally draws others to listen. When you are present, your words matter more because they are coming from a centered place, an unshakable awareness that what you are sharing deserves attention. Presence also allows for authenticity. When you are fully present, you are not hiding behind rehearsed lines or performing for approval. You are free to respond naturally, spontaneously, and honestly. Authenticity and presence feed each other. People respond to the real, unguarded you, and presence is the channel through which authenticity flows most clearly. Stummed presence signals that you are not just talking to fill silence or assert dominance. It signals that you care about connection and understanding. That care is palpable. People listen not only to your words, but to the energy you convey. Presence amplifies influence because it transforms communication from a simple exchange of information into an immersive, relational experience. Being present also requires emotional awareness. Presence is not just intellectual, it is felt. People respond to emotional resonance. When your energy is aligned with your intentions, when your emotions are genuine, when your vulnerability is visible, presence becomes magnetic. People notice subtle cues, the warmth in your voice, the steadiness of your gaze, the openness of your posture. These signals communicate attentiveness, sincerity, and engagement far more effectively than words alone. Presence creates an unspoken dialogue that draws people in, making them want to listen, making them feel seen, understood, and valued. Ultimately, presence is a practice of attention, awareness, and intention. It demands that you show up fully, release distractions, listen deeply, and engage with authenticity and emotional awareness. It is a deliberate act of focus that shapes not just how people perceive you, but how they respond to you. People listen when they feel your presence, when they sense your genuine engagement, but when they experience the energy of someone fully inhabiting the moment. Presence transforms ordinary communication into something memorable, something impactful, something that resonates long after the words are spoken. It creates an invisible thread that connects you with others, making your voice carry weight, making your words meaningful, and making your presence impossible to ignore. Silence is one of the most powerful tools in communication, yet it is so often overlooked. Many people feel the urge to fill every moment with words, to rush to respond, or to prove themselves by speaking first or speaking more. But there is a profound strength in pausing, in creating space, in letting the air itself carry part of your message. When you use silence intentionally, it commands attention without aggression. It invites people to lean in, to reflect, to engage. Silence gives weight to your words because it allows them to resonate, to settle, to echo in the minds of those listening. The moments between words are not empty. They are full of potential, full of subtle influence, full of unspoken communication that often speaks louder than speech itself. People notice when someone is comfortable with silence, when they are unhurried, unafraid, unpressured. That comfort signals confidence, clarity, and authority. Silence, when wielded deliberately, transforms ordinary conversation into a compelling experience, drawing listeners closer not through force, but through presence and intention. Pausing before speaking is a form of respect for yourself, for your thoughts, and for your audience. It allows your ideas to emerge fully formed rather than scattered or rushed. It gives people time to absorb what has been said, to reflect, to anticipate. The pause communicates that your words are worth waiting for, that your message carries significance. In a world filled with constant noise and endless chatter, the ability to create a deliberate pause is revolutionary. People instinctively pay attention when there is a rhythm to your speech that includes moments of stillness. Silence builds tension in the most elegant way, heightening engagement and making your eventual words more impactful. It is in these pauses that authority emerges, not from speaking more, but from knowing when not to speak, from trusting that your presence and intention are enough to hold attention. Silence also invites curiosity. When you don't immediately fill every space with words, people are drawn to you, wondering what will come next, anticipating your next thought. That anticipation heightens their focus, making them more receptive to your ideas. It shifts the balance of attention in your favor because it creates a subtle power dynamic where your words carry the weight of intention. They are not diluted by constant noise or filler. They are sharp, clear, and meaningful. People naturally lean in when they feel that something important is about to be said. And silence is the invisible signal that communicates importance. It is a tool that transforms ordinary speech into a magnetic force, a rhythm of presence that engages, commands, and captivates. Using silence effectively also requires confidence. Many people fear silence because they mistake it for awkwardness or weakness. But there is nothing awkward about being grounded in your own presence. Silence requires self-assurance. The knowledge that your value is not determined by how much you speak, but by the quality and weight of what you do say. When you pause, you communicate that your thoughts matter, that your words have intention behind them, and that you are fully aware of your own authority in the moment. Silence is a reflection of inner strength. It signals that you are not desperate for attention or validation. People sense this confidence and respond to it, often subconsciously, by paying closer attention, by listening more carefully, and by respecting the space you occupy in conversation. Silence is also a way to amplify authenticity. When you are willing to pause, to reflect, to be still, you allow your words to emerge naturally, honestly, and powerfully. You are not rushing to impress, to persuade, or to dominate. You are allowing the truth of your thought to present itself in its own time. This authenticity, combined with the strategic use of silence, creates a presence that is compelling and unforgettable. People do not just hear your words, they feel them. They sense the intentionality, the thoughtfulness, the care in each statement. Silence allows your voice to carry authority, not because it is loud, but because it is deliberate, resonant, and aligned with your presence. Mastering silence transforms communication into an art form. It teaches patience, fosters attentiveness, and strengthens influence. It is a practice of restraint that paradoxically empowers, creating a magnetic energy that draws listeners into the space you inhabit. Silence is not emptiness, it is presence, it is power. It is a bridge between speaker and listener that conveys intention, confidence, and authenticity. People listen more deeply when you embrace silence as part of your speech, when you allow pauses to punctuate your message, and when you trust that your presence and words together are enough to command attention, to create connection, and to make your communication unforgettable. Vulnerability is one of the most powerful ways to make people truly listen to you. It is a kind of courage that many overlook because society often equates strength with stoicism and perfection. But the reality is that people are drawn to honesty and openness far more than they are to flawless appearances. When you allow yourself to be seen as you are, with your doubts, your fears, and your imperfections, you create a bridge between yourself and others that is unshakable. Vulnerability signals that you are human, that you are authentic, and that you are willing to risk being misunderstood or judged in order to communicate your truth. It is magnetic because it breaks through the noise of pretense and draws attention in a way that is effortless yet profound. People notice when someone is willing to be vulnerable, and that noticing turns into listening. They lean in, they engage, and they remember because vulnerability resonates on a deeply emotional level that words alone cannot reach. Being vulnerable requires honesty, not just in what you say, but in how you express it. People can sense when your vulnerability is performative, when it is used as a tool to gain sympathy or manipulate perception. Authentic vulnerability, on the other hand, is rooted in self-awareness and courage. It is the willingness to share parts of yourself that are usually hidden, the openness to show your humanity, and the readiness to embrace imperfection. When you speak from that place, your words carry weight because they are more than words. They are a reflection of your lived experience, your emotions, and your truth. People listen not only because of what you are saying, but because of the trust you convey through your willingness to be seen fully. Vulnerability establishes connection, and connection is the foundation of influence. Vulnerability also requires the acceptance of uncertainty. To be truly vulnerable is to acknowledge that you do not have control over how others will respond, that you may be judged, misunderstood, or rejected. And yet it is precisely this acceptance that creates power. People are drawn to those who can stand in their truth without needing validation or approval. When you embrace uncertainty with openness, your presence becomes compelling. You communicate confidence, not in the sense of being perfect or invincible, but in the sense of being grounded in your authenticity. That groundedness allows your message to land with impact, because listeners sense the alignment between your words and your lived reality. Vulnerability, when paired with self-assuredness, creates a tension that captures attention. It is a magnetic combination of honesty and strength, of openness and courage that makes people stop, listen, and engage. Sharing vulnerability also allows for relatability. When you speak openly about your struggles, your mistakes, or your fears, people recognize themselves in you. They see that they are not alone in their own experiences, and that recognition fosters empathy and engagement. Relatability draws people in because it creates emotional resonance. They are no longer passive listeners. They are participants in a shared human experience. Vulnerability is not about oversharing or dumping your emotional burden onto others. It is about revealing enough of yourself to create understanding, connection, and trust. When people feel understood and connected, they naturally listen more deeply because your words have become meaningful within a context of shared human experience. Embracing vulnerability also enhances authenticity. It signals that you are not performing or hiding behind a facade, that you are willing to be real in every sense. Authenticity and vulnerability feed each other. They are intertwined in a way that amplifies your presence. When people sense that you are authentic, they are more likely to engage, to absorb your message, and to respect your perspective. Vulnerability communicates courage because it requires a willingness to be imperfect and exposed. Courage commands attention, and attention leads to listening. People instinctively respond to the bravery inherent in vulnerability because it is rare, genuine, and deeply human. Ultimately, vulnerability transforms communication from a transactional exchange into an emotional experience. It creates space for connection, trust, and engagement. It allows your words to resonate beyond the surface, to touch hearts, and to linger in minds. Vulnerability draws people in, holds their attention, and establishes the foundation for influence, persuasion, and authentic connection. It is a quiet but undeniable force that makes people not just hear your words, but truly listen, reflect, and respond to the essence of who you are. Consistency and courage are the twin pillars that make people truly listen to you. Many believe that influence is built through flashy displays, dramatic speeches, or sudden bursts of charisma, but the truth is far subtler. People are drawn to those who show up repeatedly, who demonstrate reliability in thought, word, and action. Consistency communicates integrity. It signals that you are someone whose message can be trusted because it aligns with your actions and your presence over time. When your words are consistent with your behavior, your principles, and your intentions, listeners feel stability. That stability creates confidence in your message and in you as a person. People are naturally inclined to pay attention to those who embody what they communicate, who don't waver with every trend, every opinion, or every external pressure. Consistency builds authority because it proves that you are grounded, unwavering, and committed to your truth. It is not flashy, it is not immediate, but it is profoundly magnetic in a way that fleeting charm cannot match. Courage is inseparable from consistency because showing up consistently requires the bravery to maintain your voice, your perspective, and your presence even in the face of doubt, criticism, or indifference. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. When you speak with courage, your words carry weight because people sense the risk you are taking simply by expressing your truth. Courage transforms ordinary statements into declarations of presence, conviction, and authority. Accustomed, people listened because they recognize that it takes strength to speak and to stand in alignment with oneself when it might be easier to remain silent or to conform. Courageous consistency demonstrates that your influence is not superficial, that your message is not disposable, and that your presence is not dependent on external validation. Consistency also amplifies credibility. People have a natural radar for authenticity. They notice when someone wavers between words and actions, when promises are broken, or when principles are compromised. On the other hand, a person who consistently communicates with integrity earns trust, and trust is the gateway to being heard. When your audience knows that your statements are backed by a history of consistent behavior, your message carries far more weight. For it is no longer just words being spoken, it is a reflection of a lived truth. Credibility built through consistency is magnetic because it signals reliability, responsibility, and commitment. Listeners instinctively respect someone whose voice is steady over time, whose intentions are clear, and whose actions align with their speech. Courage also demands presence in moments of challenge. It is easy to speak boldly when conditions are favorable, but true influence emerges when you maintain your voice in the midst of difficulty, resistance, or controversy. People listen more closely when they witness someone who does not shrink from discomfort, who does not compromise their principles, and who refuses to mute themselves to appease others. Courage is visible in the way you hold yourself, in the steadiness of your tone, in the clarity of your intentions, and in the resilience of your presence. This courage, combined with consistency, makes your words resonate because they are anchored in both conviction and reliability. Listeners sense this alignment and respond by engaging more deeply, reflecting more thoughtfully, and trusting more fully. Consistency paired with courage also cultivates respect. Respect is not demanded. It is earned over time through repeated demonstrations of integrity, accountability, and authenticity. People pay attention when they respect the speaker, and respect grows when courage and consistency are visible in every interaction. Those who consistently act with courage signal that their voice matters because it is not subject to whim or convenience. This signals authority without aggression, influence without coercion, and presence without force. People naturally gravitate toward those who demonstrate these qualities, listening not just to the words, but to the reliability, the conviction, and the substance behind them. Ultimately, consistency and courage create an invisible framework for influence. They transform speech from mere words into a living expression of integrity, strength, and authenticity. People listen because they sense alignment between your actions and your voice, between your principles and your presence. And they respond because courage demonstrates that your voice is intentional and your message is meaningful. They lean in because consistency proves that what you say is not temporary, not superficial, but enduring. These qualities together cultivate attention, respect, and engagement, ensuring that your words are not just heard, but absorbed, remembered, and acted upon